Good morning. Sorry about delay. We're just getting everyone into the room. It's been a bit tight at the door there. But I think we're ready to go now. We've got most people, if not everyone, inside the room. Please remember to two people from each yacht to be here and sign in. I'm Sam Haynes. I'm the Commodore of the club, as you know. And on behalf of the CYCA, the race organisers, I'd like to thank you for your diligence and compliance with all the paperwork and entry details that we require. So I'd like to thank the fleet for that. It's been a good year as far as compliance is concerned. It's a pretty quick briefing today. I'm just going to ask Edward Townsend Medlock from the Bureau of Meteorology to give us the latest weather. Edward, if you'd like to take the...
All right, good morning everyone. Let's go through the weather and see what you're up for. It's not much of a change from the last briefing, but everything that I've added in that looks new, I put in italics, so you'll be able to distinguish what's new. So as far as the forecast summary goes, we're starting off in a southerly. As you know, once you get out past the heads, it's looking like it's a 20 to 25 knots due south during today, Friday, but as well as right through to Saturday. And following on from that, we're looking at the winds lightening off and turning eastward during the Sunday before turning back to north early next week. Other important things on the south coast where there is a current, which I'll mention later on. There's the strong, the larger swells, 3 to 4 metres coming from the south, which is a bit of an upgrade from the 2 to 3 metres that was forecast a few days ago. So they're looking a bit bigger in terms of the waves coming from the south. And they might be competing with some of those southbound currents. So there might be a bit of a confused sea state on the south coast because of that, something to look out for. And I'll touch on the low that might be forming closer to New Year's Eve, which most will be done, but it's just worth knowing that it could be bringing some heavy rain, some gale force winds as well. All right, starting off, same feature as before, high pressure system that's sitting over Tasmania, over the western edge of it at the moment. On the eastern edge of that high pressure, we're looking at southerly winds, looking strong for the most part throughout today and tomorrow. And then once you get onto the central part of that high, later on during Sunday, we're looking at the winds turning easterly and generally lightening up, and also the weather improving a little bit. And then on the western edge of that high, you'll see the winds turn back to the north again. Starting off, looking at the race start, we've got a 15 to 20 knot southerly once you get out past within the harbour, that's happening right now. And once you get out past the heads, it's increasing to 20 to 25 knots. Waves from the south, which are looking at 3 to 4 metres at the moment, which is bigger than they were forecast before. But you'll also be going out from the harbour at high tide, so it'll be draining from the harbour from about 1:09 p.m. today. Within the harbour, there also might be a bit of a swell coming from the northeast, just half a metre. That might be filtering into the harbour. As you can tell, it's cloudy. And then moving on to tomorrow morning, we're looking at still the winds this afternoon, we're looking at the winds continuing from the south, a little bit lighter as well, particularly in the northern part, but the south coast is going to remain pretty strong in terms of the winds, with the freshening, the winds becoming fresh and then lightening up, starting from the north and then following through to the south. That southerly swell / waves continue 3 to 4 metres. Although where the winds are lesser, you'll see less of a component of the wind wave there. And because of how windy it is, and it's coming from the south, it's going to be a pretty cold night, particularly if things get wet during the day, if you get caught in a shower. As you can see, during tomorrow morning, the winds remain from the south, maybe drifting a little bit to the southwest, but you can see things are decreasing a little bit in strength, and as a result, the waves as well will end up being a little bit less tall, 2 to 3 metres there on the coast. But if anyone's in Tasmania by then, I suppose the waves will still be quite large there. As you can see, the stronger winds remain on the south coast. We're looking at 5 p.m. on the Saturday now, and the waves 3 to 4 metres there, but 2 to 3 metres in terms of the waves where the winds are a little bit less. You can see across the Bass Strait, this is kind of the last bit of that stronger southerly that you get across that area before things start to lighten up during the Sunday. So the next one is the afternoon of Sunday. You can see a significant decrease, 5 to 10 knots, if not variable at times, particularly if you're under the axis of the high, where things could be no wind at all. with remaining offshore. There's a little bit of fresh wind there, but yeah, most places along the coast, Bass Strait and eastern parts of Tasmania, you get some of those lighter winds, 5 to 10 knots. But you can also see the northerly beginning to develop on the east side of Tasmania during this time as well. Since there's not really much wind to drive much wave activity, a lot of it's just going to be continuing from that swell from the south, as a south or a south-southeasterly with those longer periods. Anybody getting to Hobart at this time, there's also a westerly swell component that's over southern Tas that's coming in during this time, so you get some competing swells in that area, which might make things a little bit choppy. The weather's also improving during this time. Then moving through to Monday, we're looking at, again, those northerlies beginning to come in, north and northeasterly. The southerly swell's kind of petering out at this point. It's going to be replaced by new waves that are being generated by this northerly, and that westerly swells over southern Tas, pushing a bit further east as well. So there's still that risk of some choppy seas over those areas. You can see also the Bass Strait starting to improve in terms of the stronger easterlies in that area. Since we do have the winds coming from the northeast and that eastern part of Tasmania, you're not going to get as much of the effects from the mountains kind of creating some difficult conditions, so that's a positive. There's been a bit of a change and an inconsistency as we get to the 30th in terms of where the modelling is at. The left-hand side we have the more reliable model with the European, and then on the right we have the US model, which is showing a bit of an alternative scenario where we do have that trough of low pressure / low pressure system pushing in a little bit earlier on that outlier scenario. Still think that left-hand side is the more likely, where we still got a day until that low pressure comes through, but just the time variation between the two is significant. And as you can see, it'll provide a bit stronger winds from the north, where you can see in those blue areas you might get into some gale force winds 30 plus on the east side of Tas. And you can also see the southerly beginning to push up right on the southern bit of Tasmania there in that US scenario. But things remain northerly in the EC scenario, so something to keep your eyes on for that one. And then last but not least, you can see where the US goes with this story. There is that southerly starting to push in, westerly through the Bass Strait on the European model, which again is the more likely scenario. But just pointing out that things could be a very windy gale force coming from the south with a much more developed system that the US is forecasting, gale force right across eastern Tasmania through Bass Strait and up the New South Wales coast. So yes, if you're planning to sail home, you'll be going very fast. Forecast for Hobart, there's not really much to say here. It's pretty similar conditions to here, just a bit colder, just generally a chance of a shower every day. The winds aren't too impressive or anything like that, just cloudy, chance of shower, etc. Current-wise, same story, not much has changed. Just the fastest one that we're looking at is that one between Jervis Bay and Montague Island, 1.5 to 2 knots. It is a southbound current, and it's competing with some of those swells from the south. So there might be a bit of confused sea states there just to look out for as your boat's going into those competing influences, as there's also the winds from the south as well. And that other warm core eddy on the east side of Tasmania, which also might be useful. Similar thing, this is the same story, just pointing out the centre line of that particular eddy on the Jervis Bay Montague Island is at 24 degrees on the centre line if you're looking for it using the sea temperatures. There's a summary. So we've got southerlies to start, then moving over to lightening up during Sunday to an easterly, and then moving to a northerly during early next week, and the potential for some of that stronger wind conditions over to New Year's Day, if anyone's still going then, in that alternative scenario with that low pressure system developing. That's all from me. Thank you very much, and good luck with the race.
Thanks, Edward. Everyone obviously keeping an eye on whether the Americans are right there. It's quite, yeah. I wanted to just very quickly mention two things. One is I really want to thank the management team at the CYCA, led by Justine. The club has done a fantastic job of this, the 80th race, and I would really appreciate the effort that everyone's put into, and also our race committee, Lee Goddard and his team, once again have done a fantastic job to get this race as well as to where it is now. So, yeah, I'd just like to thank them, please. Lastly, the tribute that we we mentioned for the tragic events in Bondi, Sunday the 14th, has been very well received by the Jewish community, but also internationally recognised and worldwide, and obviously in Australia. So thank you to the people which have also would like to make a tribute, and there's some rose petals at the back. We have actually got an abundance. Mr. Roses supplied extra in case we wanted them, which I think we do. So if anyone would like to pick up something to scatter as we pass Bondi, that would be, they're available at the back. So thank you for doing that as well. That brings us to the end of the briefing. So everyone have a great race. Good luck out there. Hopefully we get through the first sort of 30 hours or so without too much damage and unscathed, and we come through and enjoy the Tasmanian coastline. Thank you.